So guys, this is Piyush and in this video we're going to talk about like how to attempt your Java generic hands-on exam so that you can get a good marks and easily clear your generic exam in a first attempt. I recently made this kind of a video in a last month, but the problem with that video is like that video in a Hindi language, and many viewers ask me to make another video but in an English language. So that's why I'm making this video, and the problem which I selected in this video is completely different from that video. So if you already watched that video, you can also watch this video so that you can learn something new. So let's just start with this practice problem without any delay. So let's just start this video. So let's just read first problem statement. Before reading problem statement, there is some kind of prerequisite which I want to tell you, like what thing you have to know before solving this problem, like what things you have to know. So if I'm talking about this problem, then in this problem everywhere you can find only one topic, which is OOPS topic. So I recommended you, if you don't know like object-oriented programming structure concepts very well, then first go and check out some kind of a video like which is based on OOPS concepts, so that you can first learn the OOPS basics, then come again and watch this full video. And for those people who already knows the OOPS concepts very well, continuously watching this video, stick with me so that we can learn something new. So let's just read first out what is practice problem. So here I choose different practice problem. Let's just read first what is problem statement. So the problem statement says that home dealer services rent flat and want to automate the process of their bill calculation. Write a Java program to implement the functions. So let me give the quick introduction for those people who don't know like what is this practice problem and what is this kind of exams held by Infosys. So you know, when you selected as a system engineer role in Infosys, then you have to go through some kind of a foundation program training. In foundation program training, basically divided into two categories or two parts, which is generic training and the stream training. In generic training, you have to learn Java, DBMS, and behavioral skills like English communication skills. And you know, after learning all these concepts, you have to go through some kind of exam like generic exam, where you have you have to give two papers, like first one is a objective one and second one is a hands-on. In objective ones, you get some kind of MCQ questions, and in hands-on you will get a one problem, like you have to implement some kind of functions in this problem. So this is kind of a hands-on exams. Why I'm more focusedly on hands-on problem rather than objective ones, because the weightage of the objective one is a 40% and the weightage of the hands-on is a 60%. So and the passing criteria is 50%. So if you go through the hands-on problem very well, if you solve your hands-on problem or a hands-on exam 100%, then you easily passed. So that's why I'm more focusing on practice problems or Java hands-on problems, so that you can get a good marks. And if you want to get some brief introduction about the exams, then you can check out my another video like about generic training, which link is in a description. So let's just start again. So there is a home dealers organization who basically provide flats on a rent to their customers. Now they wants like we have to automate the process of bill calculation. So we have to write some kind of a Java program or functions here. So basically right now I have a lot of time, so that's why I'm reading this kind of problem statement. But in exams you have only 1 hour and 30 minutes, so I more preferred, like I recommended you to don't read the problem statement, because it's waste of time, because you don't get something about reading story. So don't read it, and after that you will find this kind of structure where here it is mentioned like how many classes is here, and what is the functions every classes contains, and what is the data members or variables every classes contains. So if you talk about like house renter class, customer class, here we can see that like its class contains one number of bedrooms, variable of type, and one total days variable of type, and like all the things. And also we can find like how many functions this house rental class contains. But this is also a waste of time. Don't read it, because during your exam you will not remember like how many functions like contains by house rental class, or like which functions is containing which functions are containing by which classes. So don't read it, because it's also waste, it's also a waste of time. Let's just come below and let's just start from implementation details. Here you can see that we have a 4 classes. One is house rental class, one is customer class, one is flat rental class, and one is flat details class. You can also get these kinds of classes, and almost 3 or maybe 4 classes. And in these classes, one class or maybe one class, yeah, maybe one class is fully implemented, and the rest of the others are partially implemented. It means that in the rest of the classes you have to implement 1 or 2 functions. We can say that almost you have to implement 3 or maybe 4 functions in your exams. So basically, this is the meaning of the partial implemented. So we have to look customer class, flat rental class, and flat details class here. So let's just start with the customer class, because it is our first class. So before going to execute or implement our functions, let's just see once like how what is the structure of your problem you will getting in your exams. So this kind of a class you will get once, which is a tester class. You don't need to change anything in this class, because it is pre-implemented by Infosys, and you don't need to change anything in it. And then you will get all the classes which is mentioned in the practice problem, like house rental class, customer class, flat rental class, and flat details class. And in these classes you will get some pre-implemented things like private string flat type, private public flat rental this is a constructor, and some and you will also get this kind of things where mentioned like to training, and it means that we have to write our code in this section only. So it is a clear message to us. So don't need to we don't have to change anything in this class. Only we have to change where the to train is mentioned. So let's go back to the class, and let's just start our implementation from first class. So here is first class is customer class. Read this carefully so that you can understand like what is the variables, what is the array, what is the functions containing by this class. So basically this tells us that we have a one member cust id array type of a string, which contains basically string type like customers IDs. And note is very important for you guys, because sometimes in notes something very important mentioned. If we skip this kind of a notes, we will definitely get an error. So in this note, the above array is supplied, and hence no need to code. And do not change the case of the element in array. In this meaning, we don't have to change anything in this member cust id array. Let's just go for the next one, member bill amount array. This is also a static array type of a int containing bill amounts. And let's just read notes. Above array is supplied, and this array has a one-to-one corresponding with the member cust id. It means that it is linked with the member cust id in respective manner, like 101p id, which is a 0 position, which is in a 0 position, is have a bill of 2000 amount, which is also as a 0 position. One position is linked with first position, and second position is linked with second position, and so on for the rest of the elements in the array. So this is basically one-to-one corresponding, like every elements have their values. So let's go for the next line. This is the calculate discount function which we have to implement. So let's just go back our customer class. Let's just see where is our calculate discount function. So this is our calculate discount function which we have to implement in the customer class, only one function. Guys, when you will go through exams, you will get one easy function where you have to write only 4 to 5 lines of a code, one medium one or maybe 2 medium one where you have to write 10 line of code something, and one hard one where you have to write 20 lines of codes. So it is depend upon your luck. So like which kind of a question you will get in your exam. So let's just start with the first function. In the first function, the first line always mention, like always give you instructions about like what's the actual functions do, like what is the return type of the function, what is the parameters this function takes, and all the important things like about this function. So as this function says, like it returns float type of a variable which is discount amount based on the rent amount float. Type of float passed as an input parameter. So basically this function takes one parameter of type float and return basically a float type. From the next lines onwards, we have to implement all the lines. But here one thing which I also want to mention, like just go through line by line, just read first line and implement in your id. Don't read all the whole the function, because if you read whole the functions, it will take your times. So you don't have so much time in your exam, so don't read it, just start implementing. And it's also a little bit confusing, like you will think like what how much big question is this, how much big function is this, like how I can implement it. So don't read it, just simply start implementation. So let's just read first line. If the cust id is present as one of the element in the member cust id array, so it means that we have to check if cust id, which is type of string, is present in the member cust id array or not. So let's just go back. First find where is the cust id. We don't need to create any variable by on. First we have to look in our class, like in customer class. If we implementing, then we have to first look in customer class, like if this cust id variable is present or not. Then if it is not, then we have to go to the parent class. Like if the customer class extends any other class, then we have to search the parent class also, like this kind of variable is present or not. If we don't find any of them, our variable in any of those classes, then we have to create our own variables. But firstly check in the both of the classes. So like we find this cust id, so directly we get cust id. So from here we can directly get get our cust id. So where is the calculate discount function? Let's just start from here. So let's just first see what the get cust id returns. So basically it's a return string, so we make it like string customer id. Yeah, we can do one more thing. Don't create it, let's just find it in our member cust id array. We have to find it in member cust id array. So let's just create one for loop, like for loop int I equals to 0, I is less than what is the name of the function, member cust id array. If you have a time, or like if what I am doing, like I always copy the name of the variables or functions or arrays, so that I can't misspell of the variables or any other things. Length I plus plus. So we simply create a for loop, and here in for loop we have to check like the get cust id, or let's say customer id is present in this array or not. So what we have to do, we just simply write like if get cust id dot equals get cust id dot equals, like equals, we have to check for every position in the member cust id array. So we have to write like get cust id array dot equals member cust id array of position I. So what happens, it start from the 0th index going for the next index, and like this is it is going to check for every index. So we have to check if our customer id is present in this member cust id array or not in any position. So let's say we simply do it. After that let's just go for the second line. If the customer id is present as one of the element in the member cust id, then we have to do some kind of a work here. If the cust id is not present in the member cust id array, then we have to return a discount amount would be minus 1.0f. Okay, so it is kind of it is like these kind of things. So let's just start from the second line. Let's say if we found our customer id, so in if condition we have to write invoke the upgrade customer method by passing the rent amount as input parameter. So here we have to call the upgrade customer. Invoke means we have to use the upgrade customer method in our if condition. So first of all, always check, like sometime what happens, Infosys doing their practice in their problems, like it's created a same name of function in different classes. Like in the customer classes upgrade customer is available, in the another classes like flat details classes also upgrade customer name of function is available, so that you can little bit confuse, like in problem it asks for use upgrade customer of different class, but you directly go in your function and directly write like upgrade customer and pass rental amount. So you directly write like this, and when like this. When you write, and let's say if upgrade customer name of function is already available in your customer class, but it is also available in the flat rental class, and in problem it says that we have to call this upgrade customer of flat rental class, not of a customer class. So we missed it and we directly write it, and it's going to call this function, not the flat rental class function. So it's going to be a error, and we can't understand, like in during our exam, like where we can do anything, any kind of a mistake. So always remind these kind of things which I mention you, just point it out so that you can not do any mistake. So here it is not mentioned, so we have to use the upgrade customer function, which is a locally present. Okay, and we have to send rent amount as a parameter. So we already did this, like we call our upgrade customer function and we passed our parameter rental amount. After that, let's go for the second one. Obtain the last character of the cust id which represent the cust type. Okay, so we have to they asked us to find the last character of the cust id, which basically tell us the customer type. Like if you see the member cust id array, here in the last character always tell us what is the type of the customer, like pr, like, and so we have to fetch this. Now here is the two things, like two way to we have to achieve this. Like one is like we simply use caret, because here in this function, in this question, we see that all the customer IDs having 4 characters only, 101p, 102r, so only 4 characters. So if we use caret at 4, or caret is starting from 0 index, so if we put like caret at 3, then we simply get our last character. But sometimes what happens, let's say all the IDs not having the same length, like 101p, like 10111r, like this kind of data is available in the member cust id array. So in this case you can't use like dot caret. So here you can use dot length function or dot substring function. Like you have to use dot substring, and in substring you have to pass parameters, like first parameter, like from where you have to start. So you have to start from the length -1, so that you can directly come to the last position. So like this you can also do, and like caret you can also do, but you have to remember one thing: you have to check out like all the characters have the same length or not. If the same length, you can use caret. If the length is different, you can't use caret. But here in our case it is of same length, so we can use here caret. Okay, so let's just go back to our function and let's just write our next line, which is says that we have to find our last character of our last character of our cust id. Let's just read once. Obtain the last character of the cust id array, cust id string, which represent the cust type. So what we have to do, like char cust type equals to get cust id dot caret at which position? Third position, because indexing is started from 0 position. We get our cust id. Refer the below table to identify the discount. If the cust type is P, then we have to give the 15% of discount. If the cust type is R, we have to give the 10% of discount. So we simply write it like if cust type equals to P, then we have to give some kind of discount, else we can't give some kind of guys, one more thing here, you have to check like it is case sensitive or not. Like sometime it is mentioned like p would be also in a small case. So we have to check it, like in assumptions, like here is mentioned like cust type would be either P or R, capital P or R, only valid values of cust type would be passed. So we don't have to look out for the another one. Like something what happens, there is mention like if customer type is not either P or not either R, then we have to give no discount. So here in this condition we can't write if else, we have to use else if and else. Okay, so here it is mentioned like cust type valid values would be passed either P or R, so we don't have to use else if, we directly write else. So here we have to give 15% discount of rent amount in the cust type of P. So what we do, we set our discount. See here already variable is represent discount. So we have to make discount equals to, what we have to do, we have to give the 15% of discount. So how we can do it? Like rental amount just multiply by 0.15. It's a mathematical formula, so you will get like kind of 0.15f. Yeah, so you will get like a discount of 15% of discount. For this we have to give 10% discount. So we simply write like a rental amount multiply 0.10 f. Okay, so we simply write it like, and yeah, it is done. Now let's go for the next line. Okay, so this is line done. Now we have to see, like here it is mentioned, like if we found the customer id, then we have to go in the if condition. If we not found cust id in any position in the member cust id, then we have to return discount amount to be minus 1.0f. So we have to return discount amount minus 1.0f. Here it is also one thing mentioned, guys, like if you like write like here else, okay, and discount amount would be minus 1.0 f, then it is going to be a some kind of you will get some kind of a error, because let's say if you find it like if you find like in the first position element is not present, then it's going for the else condition and it's set discount amount minus 1.0 f. You can do it like this. Wait, give me a second. Discount equals to minus 1.0 f. But what happens, let's say customer id is present in the second position, so we go for the second position, we found discount, we set it, but the array length is total of 5 length. Array has a 5 length. So for the after second position, it's go for the third one and it's again set discount to the minus 1.0 f. So for this you will get an error. So for preventing this, you can do two things. First thing, like you can add break here and break here. Like if you find customer type, just get discount and break the for loop. Second thing you can do, like do nothing, simply just do nothing here, just go with the flow. Like you already set discount amount is minus 1.0 f. If it is find any customer, it set the new price, like discount price. If it is not find, it is already automatically set it by Infosys to a minus 1.0 f. So you don't have to do anything, just return the discount. Okay, so it is going to be like, okay, so I think you can understand this thing. So we already implement this function. Let's go for the second one, which is flat detail class. Yeah, flat detail class. So this is also contain a static array type of string where a flat type is present. Next one is do not change the case. So we already read the note, like above here is supplied and no need to case, no need to code. Next one is a pay per day rent array, which is type of int, and it is also static. So why one more thing is, why everywhere written like static or not? Why we have to read this? Let's say sometime what happens, guys, you don't have object of these class, like flat details, flat types array, flat details class, and in another class it's ask you for find flat type in a flat type array. So what you have to looking like our class is extending our flat details class or not? Like in our class any object is available of flat details class or not? But if both of the cases not found, you just simply create a object of these flat details class. But it is wrong, because here it is mentioned like flat types array is a static type, so you don't need to create an object for accessing the static type variables or functions or array. You simply direct call it by using the class name, like flat details dot flat type array. That's why here it is mentioned like static. So don't ignore static keyword also, because sometimes you don't have a parent class, you don't have an object of this class. So you think like how can I access the flat type array? So you can access by class name if the array is a static type. Okay, so this array also has a one-to-one corresponding with the flat type array. It means that the master flat have a price of 2000, villa has a price of 1500, and suite flat type flat is a price is 1000 rupees. So we have to implement identify per day rent. So let's go for the flat details class. So we have to implement identify per day rent, and this method basically identify the and return the rent per day based on the flat type, which I already told you. First line always tell us like what the functions takes as a parameter and what the functions return basically. So it's takes string as a parameter flat type, and it's all return a integer value. So this is the simplest thing. And check if the flat type present as one of the element in the flat type array or not. And here is a note like perform case sensitive comparisons. It means that if we have a villa in all the character is a capital letter, then we also have to consider like it is equals to this villa. So this is the meaning of a case insensitive. I hope you will you are already know about this. So first we have to check if flat type. So we have to go and we have to check in a flat type array. So let's just create for loop where we just simply go through our flat type array. For we are going to check for every position like it is present or not, I plus plus, and we have to go through the all. We have to check if the flat type is present or not. Now the question is, where is the flat type? Where is the flat type? So flat type is a parameter which is given by function. So we simply check if flat type dot ignore equal case. Guys, we can use ignore equal case in case of equals ignore case in case of if you don't want to compare like if you want to compare case sensitive way. Okay, here we can check like flat types array of I. Here we can check for every position if it is present or not. Okay, so the next line is also done. And if present, then we have to do what? We have to find the corresponding rent per day from the per day rent array. So guys, let's assume we found it like on a villa on a first position, 0 first to on first position. Then what is the price for this villa is 1500. How we can get it? Like it is also present in the first position. So if we found it in any ith position, like in ith of 0th position, 1th position, then their corresponding value is also present in the same ith position. So we don't have to do something. We simply get rent per day we have to find like from where we have to find from per day rent array, and from which position? Same position, I position, because these both array are corresponding to one another. So we simply found rent per day, and after that let's say we found it at first position, let's say villa. We have let's say flat type is villa and we found it at the first position, then we don't need to go further. So simply what we do, we simply write a break statement here. Okay, so I think we done it. And where is the function? Yeah, otherwise the rent would be -1. If we don't found rent would be -1. So if we don't found, rent per day is already set to -1, and return the rent per day, and here we already return the rent per day. So these kind of function which is smaller one, which I already mentioned you, like you will get one smaller function where you have to write only 3 to 4 lines of code. So this is one kind of functions you will get in your exam. So let's just go for the next one. Flat rental class. If you don't understand the line, guys, one more thing, if you don't understand the line, just read it the example. Like if the flat type is villa, rent per day is 1500. If you check it like flat villa, then it is on first position, then the prices would be 1500. So you can read also examples. This is the flat rental class. Calculate flat final discount final amount would be the next function which we have to implement, and this is I think a last function. Yeah. So see guys, actually this is not full example which I create, sorry for that, so don't read example here. So calculate final amount is the biggest one function in this question, which like you can also get the same amount of same thing of function. Like see, you can see if there is almost 10 to 20 statements we have to implement. So let's just start from the first one, which says us this method calculate basically and return the final amount, which is a type of double based on the below logic. So it means that it can't take any parameter and it returns a double type, which is the final amount. So we just go for our flat rental class. We can check here a calculate final amount, which is basically return a double, like it is a double type. So what we have to do, we simply start from the first line, invoke the identify per day rent, identify per day rent of the method of the flat detail class by passing a flat type as a parameter to identify the rent per day. So we have to call the identify per day rent. See, here one thing is mentioned, like of which class? Of flat details class. So here we have to call the identify per day rent of a flat detail class, and during this, during calling this function, we have to pass a parameter which is a flat type, because we already implement the identify per day rent, and it's take a one parameter which is a flat type, which is a type of a string, and it returns as rent per day, which is a type of int. So we simply have to call this function, and let's just call this function an id. So what we have to do, we simply call int rent per day, and what we have to call, we have to call the identify per day rent, and of flat details class, flat details class. Let's just save it, all the things. And here we can see that flat rental class extend the house rental class, not the flat detail class. And here it is also mentioned like this function, wait a second, this identify per day rent is a type of it is a static type function. So what we have to do, we directly call it, we don't need any object of the flat detail class. It is a static function, so we directly call it. So we just what we have to do, we directly call the function by the class name identify per day, and we have to send the flat type, like we have to send the flat type as a parameter. So we directly call. Now let's go for the second one. Invoke the identify total days method of house rental class, which will set the value of total days and calculate the return excess hours. So we have to call the identify total days, which is a method of house rental class, which basically perform what, this function basically set the total days and also calculate and return our excess hours. Okay, so we have to call identify total days, but of which class? House rental class. And we see it like house rental class is a parent class of our this class. So we simply call it. Okay, and now guys, in your problem, like in your exam, what happens, like we have to call now what, identify total days, like identify total days. Yeah, sometime what happens, you have also one function here like identify total days. Let me first call the function excess hours. Okay, excess hours, what we have to call, we have to call identify what is this, identify per day rent. Okay, identify per day rent. Let's just simply call it. Okay, let's just see why it's not coming. Identify per day rent, not it is identify total days, house rental class. Where is the house rental class? Identify total day rent, sorry, total days. So we have to call identify total days. So we just call it. What happens, guys, sometime what happens, let's say you have also one function here like public void and int and identify total day rent, which take the not take any parameter, and like this. Okay, so you will get some kind of this, and let's say it's return -1. Okay, so what happens, you have to call identify total days of the which class? House rental class, but you simply call it, and when you call it, it's called this function. Okay, so what happened, when you call this function, you will get a definitely error. So that's why I told you in a previous time, just read it like of which class we have to call these functions. So we have to call of house rental class. So better is, what we have to do, we have to call super here, so that it indicates that don't call the local function, call its parent function. So for better understanding, always read it. And sometimes students, what student do, like they always put a super here, and in the problem statement mention like you have to use for a local class, don't have to use for a parent class. So when you put it super here, it's go for the parent class, and you will again get an error. So always don't put a super here, just read it properly, because in exams you will get definitely get this kind of things. This is a very simple problem, but in exam you will get a different one or difficult one. So just read it. So I hope you will understand what I am trying to say you. So I call it excess hours, and house rental which set the total is and return excess. Set the return value of identified total days method to the excess hour, which we already done it. If rent per day is -1, excess hour is less than 0, or total days is less than 0, then the final amount would be -1. So we have to set final amount. So let's just create one variable which is a double final amount, because its function return double. That's why I created double of type. Make it 0.0 f 0.0. Okay, and we have to now check it. If rent per day, what you say is -1 equals to, if rent per day is -1, or let's say, or total days is less than 0. So total days is less than 0, and or excess hour is less than 0, sorry, or excess hours is less than 0, or let's say total days is less than 0. Where is the total days? We have to find in their parent class, house rental class. Yeah, this is it, get total days. So we have to call like, get total days is less than 0. So what we have to do, we have to make it function here and just put it super here, because we have to call from parent class. So if it is 0, then we have to set our final amount would be -1.0 f 1.0. Okay, so I think we done for our almost 2 to 3 statements. Otherwise, let's say, if it is present, let's say if it is not 0, then we have to write like else condition, where we have to do some operations. Obtain the rent amount as the product of total days and the rent per day. So we have to found the rent amount of type float. So just create a float, rent amount, which is a product of total days and rent per days. So total days and rent per day. So super dot get total days multiply rent per day. I think I hope you will understand this. And now identify the excess hour amount. We have to find the excess hour amount also using excess hour. Like for every excess hour 10 currencies charged. So we have to simply write int excess hour amount equals to excess hours multiply 10. Okay, simply we write it. Now go for the next one. Add the obtained excess hour to the rent amount. So we have to do what? We have to add this amount in the rent amount. So we simply add this excess hour amount. Just go line by line like this. And after that, add the obtained, invoke the calculate discount method of a customer class. So we can see that we can't, we don't extend, our customer class. So our customer class is not our parent class. So how can we call the, calculate discount? So we can see that flat rental class take a one parameter in constructor, which is a customer type object. So we can see in customer, we have an object of a customer class. Okay. See where we can get customer. Wait a second, get customer. Where is the customer? We can get in customer class. Wait a second. Which class we extend? We extend house rental class. Sorry, we have to check in the house rental class. So we can see, we can get our customer object from this function. So we simply go in our this class where we can get error. No. See what we have to do. We have to call calculate discount method of a customer class. So we simply first put it down, get customer, so that we can get an object of customer object. Then we have to call calculate discount, and here we have to pass rent amount, which is current, we found above, this rent amount. So we already pass it, and as a parameter, and obtain the discount amount, and we have to found discount amount. Okay, so when we call this, we simply found discount amount. So let's store it discount amount. So we simply store it in a discount amount variable. After that, if discount amount is minus 1.0, final amount would be minus 1.0. Otherwise, let's say otherwise, if it discount amount would be minus 0, then final amount would be minus 0 1.f. So what we have to do, if discount amount would be minus 1.0, then it should be final amount would be minus 1.0 f. See, final amount would be minus 0.0 f. So if discount amount 0 equals to minus 1.0 f, then what we have to do, we have to make our final amount equals to minus 1.0. Done. I think it is done. Yeah. Now go for the else condition. Obtain final amount by subtracting discount amount from rent amount. So we have to get final amount from where? Subtracting rent discount amount from rent amount. Discount amount like this. Okay. So we simply found it. After that, let's just go for the next one. Identify the index of a cost ID in a member cost ID area of the customer class. So we have to find the customer ID, okay, and the position of the customer ID in the member cost ID array of the customer class. So we have to find the first we have to find the customer ID. So let's say C customer ID, and from where we can get? From customer class. So from customer class we can get like get customer, so that we can get the customer class object. Then we have simply write like get cost ID. So we have a get customer ID. We have to run one for loop, same same thing which we did in a customer class in here, like we can search it like for loop in like same thing. So we can just copy it and we are going to paste it here. And so what we did, we simply call for loop and we simply go through the member custody array, but we can't directly call it. We have to use, we have to call by a customer object. So we can simply call it like get customer dot get member custody array like this. See, and this is a function basically which return object. And one more thing we can do here, like we can do like directly we can call by the name. Because we can see that like this array is a static type, so we can directly call by the class name also. Like how? Like customer dot member custody array. See, so we can directly do we can do things in a multiple ways, but you have to know the proper knowledge of the OOPS concept. So we simply go through the for loop, and we have to check if the cost ID is equal to the member cost ID array. Here we can also write like this, and we have to check if the our customer ID is equals to the any position of the member custody array or not. If it is fine, then we have to do one more thing. Next one, identify the corresponding, we have to find the corresponding bill amount from where? From member bill amount array, and update it by adding the above final amount. It means that let's say we found 103p. Okay, what we have to do, we have to find the corresponding previous bill of that person, like this is 1232. And how we can found it? We simply found it by their index. It is in a third position, 0 1 2 second position, then its bill is also stored in the second position. So if we found it like in ith position, we know that the bill is also in a ith position here, in ith position. Okay, so we simply go and fetch it and just add our final amount. We don't have to do any other thing, we just simply have to do these things. So let's just go back our thing, and I think this is the last thing which we have to do. So we simply direct call our member bill amount array, and in ith position we have to update it. Okay, so what we have to, in ith position we simply add final amount. Okay, final amount. And now after this, so now we have to simply return our final amount as the output for this function. So let's just write simply final amount, final amount. Oh sorry, I think caps lock is on, so we have to write in a proper syntax so that we can't get any error, any syntax error. So we have to write final final amount. Okay, so I think our function is done. Now we have to check our code, like it will give a correct output or not. So let's just quickly go to the tester class and let's just run this class so that we can check our output. So you can see, like before a bill amount, the customer ID 102R have a 5300 bill, and after adding the 90 rupees bill in a customer ID 102R, updated value for 102R customer ID is 5319, and for the others value are the same. For the others customer, the value are same. So this is it, guys. Thanks for watching this video. Please like and subscribe our channel and keep watching.